They called it Îles du Diable, Devil's Island. Not because of what the prisoners did, but because of what the island did to them. 3 miles from the steaming coast of French Guiana, this sliver of rock and rot served the Republic as both sentence and silence. The tide kept men in. The jungle kept truth out. Here, a man could be buried alive while still breathing. A name struck from the ledger. A trial whispered in Paris. A verdict never mailed. And then, the crossing. When the boat left, it left more than water in its wake. It left justice behind. Now it is 1,895. And you, a low-ranking official with orders in your pocket and cholera in the air, are sent to review a prisoner's case. No one tells you why. No one tells you what's at stake. But everyone tells you, do not listen too closely. Because on Devil's Island, even the innocent start to confess. The rain hasn't stopped since Cayenne. It sheets sideways across the deck, sharp as razors, warm as breath. Tropic storms do not fall, they attack as if trying to strip the skin from the world. You're crouched beneath a tarp that smells of mildew and rope grease, clutching your orders in their oilskin pouch. The ink is already bleeding. The name of the prisoner, the one you've been sent to re-evaluate, now looks like a bruise. The captain hasn't spoken to you since you came aboard. He doesn't need to. His men have made it clear. This boat serves the colony, not the law. Their eyes carry more verdict than your satchel. You try to breathe through your mouth, but it's no better. Salt. Fuel. And beneath it all, the smell of the island ahead, like rot left in the sun, mixed with the cloying sweetness of jungle flowers that refuse to die. It reaches you before the land does. Someone heaves over the side of the boat. Someone else laughs. You don't look. You're not here to make friends. You're here on orders. Signed in Paris, triple-stamped, addressed in the florid ink of bureaucrats who will never see this place. They've asked you to gather a statement from one particular inmate, a man whose case has grown complicated. No explanation. No timeline. Just a name. Just a file. And a sentence beneath it. Report any inconsistencies in the prisoner's testimony. Further instructions will follow. The sea calms as the island comes into view. 3 jagged teeth rise from the water. Îles du Salut, the Salvation Islands. You already know the joke. The name is a lie. The main island is for guards and clergy. The middle holds workshops, pig pens, and fever wards. And the smallest, shrouded in mist, holds what remains of Devil's Island. Only the most dangerous men are sent there. And the most dangerous truths. The motor coughs. The ship slows. Someone touches your shoulder, a native porter, silent as the dead. He hands you a lantern. It doesn't matter that it's mid-morning. The jungle eats daylight. You descend the gangplank, boots sinking into wet sand, lungs seizing as the air thickens. You are met by an officer in stained whites, his hat askew, moustache dripping. He doesn't salute. You the one from the ministry? You nod. He spits into the mud. Then God help you. The officer leads you along a path of sunken boards through swamp and underbrush, your boots sliding on moss that's already claimed dozens of souls. The jungle sings around you, but not in joy. It's a warning. Above, long vines dangle like ropes. Below, frogs the size of fists croak between puddles where malaria breeds. Your guide says nothing. He doesn't need to. The compound emerges from the mist like a wound. Barbed wire strangles stone walls. Watchtowers lean at odd angles, their lanterns flickering even in daylight. Everything here is damp, rusted, and alert. A gate opens without being ordered. Inside, rows of single cells, low huts for guards, a chapel with no bell. You're brought to the administration shack, a wide plank house on stilts, built by someone who knew how to fear the flood. The officer, you still don't know his name, gestures to a chair without sitting. A native orderly brings you tepid coffee that tastes of ashes and quinine. The officer finally speaks. The one you're here for, he doesn't talk. Not anymore. Not since the fever. You ask how long he's been silent. He shrugs. Maybe a month. Maybe since they shipped him here. You'd have better luck getting words from a dog. You open the file. Name, Augustin Delmas. Rank, former captain, 3rd Field Artillery. Crime, treason, dissemination of seditious material. Sentence, deportation for life. There's a photograph. His face is gaunt, but still noble. His eyes, at least in the image, seem focused, not broken. You flip the page. Beneath the verdict is a stamp. Confidential. Assigned for re-evaluation under ministerial directive. You ask if he's had visitors. No, the officer says. Only the birds. You look up. He clarifies. The ones that wait for men to die. The officer stands and points through the open window toward a caged cell on the far edge of the compound, surrounded by muck and mosquito nets. That's him. If you want to play magistrate, be my guest. But don't stay long. He's got something in his eyes. Makes the men uneasy. Like he's seeing something we aren't. You ask for a guard. The officer grins without humour. Guards won't go near him unless he's bleeding. You want company? Take God. He's still free, last I heard. He leaves you with the file and your thoughts. Outside, the rain begins again, but softer now. A mist more than a storm. You collect your satchel, steady your breath, and begin the walk toward the cage. Every step sounds like it could be the last. The path to Delmas's cell is barely that, a series of cracked planks raised above ankle-deep water, flanked by brush that teems and hisses. You swat at insects, taste metal in the air. Even the lantern's light seems reluctant to follow. The cell stands alone, like a shrine, or a tomb. Wire mesh wraps the wooden walls. The roof is corrugated tin, bent inward as if under pressure from some invisible hand. There is no lock, just a latch. The kind that says, no one wants to come out, no one dares go in. He is inside, seated, unmoving. Captain Augustin Delmas, or what remains of him. You take him in slowly. His uniform has long since become rags, but the posture is military, back straight, eyes forward, as if waiting for inspection. He is thin, not from famine but refusal, like he's denying the body's needs, one by one. A protest in flesh. You greet him. No reply. You show him the file. Still nothing. His gaze doesn't flinch, doesn't drift. It is locked on something far behind you or far inside. Either way, it is not you. You try again, softer. You explain the orders, the re-evaluation, the request for his testimony. At the word testimony, something moves. Not his head, not his mouth, but his hands, curled in his lap like hooks, twitch. Just once. You press further. You ask about the pamphlets, about the charges, about the court-martial. You remind him he was once an officer, once trusted with cannons and coordinates and lives. Surely he has something to say. He blinks. Once. Then, at last, he speaks. A voice like wind through broken shutters. Do you remember how the judge smelled? You freeze. It's not a question meant for reply. It's a test. He speaks again. I do. like starch and clove oil. His robe was too clean for the room they put me in. It was as if they had dressed him just for my guilt. You scribble notes. He watches you now, truly watches. His voice strengthens, not in volume but in direction, as if tunneling toward you through dirt. They told me I could speak freely, but the more I said, the more the words hung around my neck. Every answer made the rope tighter, so I gave them silence. A pause. Then, quietly, and they took that too. You ask what he means. He leans forward, just enough for the light to catch his eyes. They put it in the transcript. The accused refused to deny the charge. Even nothing was twisted into guilt. You look at the file. He's right. The line is there, almost word for word. Typed, signed, sealed. He smiles. Not kindly. Now you come to ask me again. So tell me, fonctionnaire, what would you like me to confess this time? You steady your pen. Ask him to begin with the trial itself. Captain Delmas closes his eyes. At first, you think he is withdrawing again, slipping into that stubborn void. But then he speaks, and the timbre of his voice changes. It grows precise, measured, as if he is reading from a script burned into his bones. There was no jury, he says. No advocate. Only a panel of 3. A colonel, a bishop, and a civilian from the ministry. They did not speak to one another. They did not look at me. Only at the papers before them, as if the papers contained a man more real than the one on trial. You ask him what the charge was. He shrugs. Sedition, treason, incitement. The ink ran together. They said I had circulated documents questioning the Republic's war in Madagascar. That I had called the mission imperial theft. That I used my rank to poison the minds of subordinates. You ask, did he? His head tilts, not in denial, not in agreement. I wrote the truth. Whether that is a crime depends on who reads it. He speaks faster now, not with urgency, but with a kind of release, like a fever breaking. They brought in evidence, pamphlets, unsigned, badly printed, but they also brought in my letters, private, personal, sealed. Letters to my sister, to my captain, to a woman who never replied. They read them aloud, mocked them. Every word became a stone in the noose. You interrupt. Why were you tried in secret? The court-martial should have been public, even for officers. Delmas smiles with dry lips. Because if I had been seen, I might have been heard. He begins to recite, word for word, the closing statement of the judge. The accused has mistaken criticism for courage. In times of expansion, doubt is treason. In a colony of order, disorder begins with the tongue. He opens his eyes. That was their verdict. But their sentence came later. Devil's Island. They might as well have called it purgatory with palm trees. You ask him, do you believe you are innocent? He looks at you, and for the first time, you feel the air leave the room. Innocent? His voice is almost a whisper. I believed in France, in its ideals, in its myths. That was my crime. I thought we were better. They proved I was wrong. Delmas leans back. His eyes no longer meet yours. They drift, upward, outward, to something behind the ceiling, beyond the compound. You don't interrupt. Not yet. This is the moment the others warned you about. The moment his words begin to lose time, but not meaning. They think the trial ends with the verdict, he says, but it only ends when the accused believes it. He touches the wall beside him, damp wood scarred with dozens of short horizontal lines. First came the insects. They bite where you cannot scratch. Then the fevers. They take your name before your body. Then the birds. You ask about the birds. He doesn't smile, but his tone lightens, mockingly. They perch on the fence. They learn your schedule. They know when to watch. You ask if he's speaking literally. He pauses. Does it matter? You don't reply. Delmas continues. Sometimes the guards forget to feed us. Sometimes they forget to open the latrine. Sometimes they forget we're men, or remember too late. His fingers trace one of the lines on the wall. A small tick mark, barely noticeable. I began carving one for each night. I survived without hallucination. At first, I kept count of the same days. Then I ran out of space. You ask what he hallucinates. He laughs, low, rasping. Nothing you'd find in a fever manual. No devils. No fire. Just the courtroom. He leans forward now, voice dropping. I see it rebuilt in the jungle. I see the colonel's medals hanging from banana leaves. The bishop wears a cassock of vines. The civilian has no eyes. But they call roll. They call me, and I rise. You glance around the cell. It's small, unlit, but for your lantern. There's no paper, no pen. Yet Delmas recites full transcripts from memory. You ask how he remembers so much. I was a soldier, he replies. We were taught to memorize orders. Some orders never fade. He gestures toward the file in your hands. You've read my name. You've read the charge. You've seen the seal. Now tell me, Inspector, does the record match the man? You don't answer, because you're no longer sure. The rain returns. Soft at first, like a lullaby sung by something that's forgotten the words. Then, heavier, sharp, drumming, endless. You light a second lantern. The shadows it casts stretch in opposing directions. Delmas has gone silent. He sits with his knees drawn up, face turned toward the back wall. He no longer acknowledges you. You ask a question anyway. What do you want them to know? No reply. Only the sound of water. It drips from the ceiling, runs down the corners, forms rivulets in the floorboards that don't seem to follow gravity. You realize you haven't written anything in 5 minutes. Maybe longer. Your pen is still in your hand, but the page is blank. You look down at your notes. The ink has bled. Whole sentences erased. One line remains, somehow dry, crisp, underlined in red. Even silence becomes confession. You didn't write that. You'd remember. You're certain. Almost certain. You ask Delmas. He doesn't move. You close the file, but it doesn't close. The clasp is broken. You didn't notice that before. The paper edges are wet. One of them cuts your finger as you try to press the folder shut. You watch the blood bead. It doesn't fall. It simply sits there, waiting. A noise outside. Not the rain. Not the wind. A footstep. You rise. Step to the door. Open it. No one is there. Just the jungle. Breathing. When you turn back, Delmas is standing. His eyes are closed. Arms at his sides. Mouth moving. You ask what he's saying. He doesn't answer. You step closer. The words become audible. It's a verdict. Not in French. In Latin. Deliberatio nulla. Veritas supplicata. Iudicium aeternum. No deliberation. Truth in chains. Eternal judgment. You ask him, where did you hear that? He opens his eyes. I didn't. I dreamed it. And then, almost gently, it's your turn now. You leave the cell without saying goodbye. There is no goodbye to say. Delmas has resumed his seat, face blank, lips closed. As if he never spoke. As if the entire exchange was a trick of light and heat and dread. You cross the compound. The air feels heavier now, like walking through syrup. The guards won't meet your eyes. The officer who brought you here is gone. You ask after him. The orderly shrugs. Sick, he says. Or drunk, or gone. You press him for records. Your voice sounds strange, too loud in the thick air. The orderly hands you a clipboard without looking. The page is blank. You return to the dock. The boat is late. You're told the waters are rough. You wait an hour. Then another. Then night begins to fall. You return to your lodging hut. Small, sparse, one cot, one basin, one shuttered window. The air tastes of mould and lye. You light a candle. Try to write your report. But when you unseal the folder, the one that contains Delmas's file, it's no longer his name on the cover. It's yours. You freeze. Flip pages. They're filled with your handwriting. Except, some aren't. Some are typed. Some are in red ink. All of them bear a heading at the top. Tribunal de Salut, en termes provisoires. Salvation Tribunal. Internal Provisional Review. You haven't eaten today. You haven't slept. You tell yourself this is a mistake. A fever. A dream. But you can't find your original orders. You can't find the name Delmas anywhere. Even the photograph is different. It's your face. Younger, shaven, staring into the lens with the disbelief of someone just sentenced. A knock. You open the door. No one is there. Only a folder on the ground, sealed with the same wax, stamped with the same emblem. You don't want to open it. You do anyway. Inside is a transcript. The same words Delmas spoke to you, written perfectly, even the ones you didn't record. At the bottom, subject shows signs of resistance to narrative dissolution. Observation to continue. The final line is handwritten, in your own script. In the end, all trials are self-administered. If this story left a mark on you, if you felt the heat, the silence, the weight of the verdict, then you're one of us now. For more immersive journeys into forgotten places and impossible moments, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Leave a comment. Your thoughts are part of the record now. And remember, some trials never end. They only change who's holding the gavel.